Topic: regulation of kidney function. One of the methods is by hypothalamus. Hypothalamus regulates kidney function. So the condition is when water content in our body becomes low, hypothalamus stimulates or activates pituitary gland to release the hormone ADH, which helps in the water reabsorption and maintains water balance. That is, loss of water from the body is prevented by the hypothalamus by secretion of ADH. See, the condition when excessive loss of fluid from the body is taking place, that means more urine is formed, then the osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus. Then what are osmoreceptors? Osmoreceptors are the sensory receptors in the hypothalamus which can detect the changes in osmotic pressure. That means which can detect the changes in water level. Osmoreceptors are the osmotic or sensory receptors which can detect the changes in water level. So these stimulate or send signal to the hypothalamus that more water is lost from the body. So the body needs water. Body should retain water. So then the hypothalamus activates pituitary gland, the neurohypophysis of pituitary gland, to release the hormone vasopressin. Then what happens? Pituitary releases or secretes the hormone vasopressin, and this vasopressin helps in the reabsorption of water from the latter parts of tubule. That means the last parts of renal tubule and prevents diuresis. Then what is diuresis? Diuresis is excess urination or excess water loss through urine is known as diuresis. So as this prevents diuresis, vasopressin is also known as ADH, anti-diuretic hormone. Clear now? So what happens when the excess loss of water takes place from the body? Hypothalamus gets activated and sends signal to the pituitary to release the hormone vasopressin, and vasopressin helps in the reabsorption of water back into the body and prevents diuresis. So that the volume of urine is decreased. By this water can be retained in the body. Then as this is a vasoconstrictor, ADH is also a vasoconstrictor. That means which can contract blood vessels to increase BP. Okay, so this vasopressin constricts blood vessels and increases BP, and thereby increases glomerular blood flow, and GFR can also be increased. Okay, so an increase in body fluid volume can switch off osmoreceptors and suppress ADH release to complete the feedback. Okay, so when more water is retained, then the body or hypothalamus gets the signal that enough water is retained in the body. Now stop reabsorbing. So the feedback is sent to the hypothalamus to stop releasing ADH. Okay, so the ADH, the release of ADH is stopped, thereby switching off the release of action of ADH. Okay, now the second one is second method is by renin angiotensin aldosterone mechanism, RAS. Renin angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism, RAS. Now, this takes place when a fall in glomerular blood flow is taking place. That means when BP is low, blood pressure is low, then GFR, urine formation, is less. This activates JG cells. JG cells means juxtaglomerular cells. These are found in juxtaglomerular apparatus. Then what is juxtaglomerular apparatus? This is a modification found in the nephron by the fusion of efferent arteriole with the distal convoluted tubule. The fusion or attachment of the efferent arteriole with that of distal convoluted tubule forms a structure called juxtaglomerular apparatus, which has the cells JG cells, and these cells release an enzyme called renin. Renin enzyme released by JG cells of a kidney. Okay, kidney particularly by which one? By the JG cells of a nephron. And this renin activates and activates a plasma protein, angiotensinogen, which is produced from a liver. Okay, and this angiotensinogen gets activated by renin into angiotensin 1 and angiotensin 2, and this acts on adrenal cortex. Angiotensin 2 acts on the endocrine gland, adrenal, cortical region of adrenal, that means adrenal cortex, and releases the hormone aldosterone. And this aldosterone helps in the reabsorption of sodium and water from the distal parts of tubule and increases BP, and thereby increases GFR. Okay, and can directly act upon the blood vessels too. That means as it is a vasoconstrictor, which one? Renin. Vasoconstrictor, which can contract, help in the contraction of blood vessels, and thereby increase BP and can increase GFR. That means increase the formation of more urine. Okay, so the renin acts when the BP is low, and this increases the BP and increases the GFR. And third method is by ANF, atrial natriuretic factor, which is secreted by heart. Heart secretes, especially the atrial wall of a heart secretes a hormone called ANF, atrial natriuretic factor, and this is secreted when there is an increase in blood flow, when the GFR is high. Okay, that means when the BP is high, to control it, to control the BP or GFR, which is secreted, ANF is secreted, and ANF is a vasodilator, which is a which helps in the relaxation of blood vessels. So ADF dilates the blood vessels and decreases blood pressure. So when blood pressure is high, that means during the high BP, more urine is formed to check that ANF is released, and by the release of ANF, urine formation gets decreased, and thereby fall in GFR takes place. So this mechanism, ANF mechanism, is just opposite to the RAS. So we can say that it is antagonistic, that means opposite action to the but RAS acts as a check on the renin-angiotensin mechanism. Clear, I think. So when renin is released when there is a decrease in BP, and ANF is released when there is an increase in BP. So these two methods are opposite in nature. And